What is going on, Sports Wars? We're here and we're live for some Monday evening quarterback to talk about all the games that happened last week. Well, we still got one going tonight in the NFL. No real big time college football stuff to talk about, so we'll probably skip over a little bit of that. Robert may or may not be here. We're not quite sure yet. However, we do have some stuff to talk about. I was giving Beardo a little shit because his Giants did win. His Giants got away with a win, and it looks like they got away with a little more than that, maybe on the last play from scrimmage for the Washington Commanders. But you got to feel good about the win, nevertheless.
Feeling good. It was really looking like, is this thing really going to go to overtime, 20-20 again against the Redskins? But yeah, maybe we got away with one. Maybe it was clean, just the way that the officiating has been all season long, just how terrible the refs has been, especially this season, but in previous seasons it's been bad, really bad. But this season it's been a lot more prevalent that the officiating, something needs to change. They either need to get these old heads out of here, they need to hold these refs accountable, something needs to change. But yeah, we may have gotten away with one in the end zone last night, but nonetheless, a win is a win is a win. I'm happy for the Giants, and playoff hopes, we're still alive, baby, so let's go.
Yeah, Kevin Durant got in on some of the fun there. Happy holidays, sending hugs. That was the last play. I think it was 4th and goal. It was 4th and goal, and this was the play. It was pretty physical. I mean, let's figure out. All right, Beardo, look at this play here.
You think he's got his eyes turned around at the ball?
That doesn't really
he's
matter.
Looking at the ball. He's playing the ball.
No, I don't think he's playing his arms. I think he's playing to keep this guy's arms down. That's what I think. That's what it looks like to me. But nevertheless, I mean, the Giants did what they needed to do to fucking win that game. And even though Washington had their opportunities at the end, they could have sealed it up. They could have fucking come back. They could have done something else. You can't rely on somebody to blow a whistle. Even though in current day NFL, like, you breathe on a guy and you get a flag. But they certainly swallowed the whistle on this one, not a doubt about that. I see Carnage Undone in the chat is very stoked about the Giants, says, let's go Giants for $10. And then he also says, and I bet Beard will agree with this, I love how they're blaming the refs on the illegal formation and the PI, but forgot they missed illegal hands of the face penalty that would have negated the defensive pass interference. I don't understand, but I love the media hate. There are missed calls in every single game. When you look at, remember that, like, egregious, was it Rams Saints missed call from a couple years ago?
In the playoffs a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that was egregious, right? And so that's the one you focus on because that had such a big factor on what happened. But at the same time, the other 59 minutes of the game, there's bad calls that happen always.
Yep.
But it's always those ones that are at the end, like where the spotlight's under everybody, that are going to be under the most ridicule. And those are the most important ones. Even though other things can definitely change momentum of a game and change the outcome of a game, like a missed call on a touchdown in the first quarter is just as important as a missed call on a touchdown, at the last moment.
Yep.
But it doesn't feel that way, certainly.
In that Rams Saints play, like, the NFL actually did something positive about it. They did, for one season, the coaches were allowed to challenge whether a play was or wasn't offensive pass interference or defense pass interference, whichever. And I think like 0% of the challenges got overturned. Like, the coaches never won that challenge, and the NFL took that rule away. So it's like, that is one rule that I think the coaches still should be able to challenge a pass interference, and they did it one season. The refs never did anything about it, and then the NFL just said, you know what, that was a cool little experiment, but we're not going to do that anymore. It's like, I think we need that more today. Like, give that power to the coaches back.
Yeah, it was, that one was pretty bad because of was it the NFC Championship game? Was it just a playoff game? I don't remember.
It might have been the NFC Championship game because that was like the Saints' next best chance to go back to the Super Bowl. And like, Drew Brees kept coming back year after year because it was like the Minneapolis Miracle where they lost to Stephon Diggs and Case Keenum. It's like, that year the Saints could have went to the Super Bowl. And then the next year they lost to the Rams in that playoff game. And it's like, man, how many heartbreakers can Drew Brees keep? Like, how many can he handle? And yeah, it was tough. It was that call was the year that where the Rams totally got away with that pass interference was the year that the Patriots beat the Rams the second time. The Todd Gurley, Jared Goff Rams.
Yeah, I think it was the NFC Championship game. Yeah,
Yep.
It was the NFC Championship game. So, man, that's a fucking rough one. That's a rough one. There's no doubt about that. And then JRC for $10. What about that fumble by the Washington quarterback? Nobody's talking about that. I mean, I thought there was a couple missed calls. Remember the one where we reacted to that Matt Ryan? You were there when we reacted to that, right? On that comeback.
For the Vikings?
Oh, no, that was on my stream that I did. Matt Ryan had a clear fumble in the pocket, and then he just shoved the ball forward, and it got called an incomplete pass. I don't know if you saw that one.
I didn't.
But, yeah. So, there's bad calls all the time. But let's see here. Make sure we've got Rumble pulled up, and we are live over on Rumble. Thank you guys on Rumble for being here. We got some stuff to talk about, and we may as well start with what happened a couple days ago. Not the Saturday games, not the Sunday games, but those Thursday games, or that Thursday game. And it was 49ers Seahawks, and the 49ers just continue to roll with Brock Purdy.
Yep.
I don't think they have any desire to change anytime soon. They certainly seem comfortable with him back there, at least, to get him into the playoffs. Who knows when Jimmy G can come back? And maybe even then it might be a question of what happens. Of course, this is all with Brock Purdy having, 2.5 or 3 games under his belt in the NFL at this point. But They do beat the Seahawks in Seattle. And, it seemed like the score was close, but it just it felt like the 49ers controlled the game to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it felt like the 49ers were in control. They had the momentum all game, and then the Seahawks were also making mistakes. I think Geno Smith had a few terrible plays, and then also the officiating was bad in that play in that game too. There was a really bad roughing the passer call where Nick Bosa just had a pretty clean hit on Geno Smith, but a lot of these refs are real soft this season, and I think a lot of it has to do with that Tua injury. But Brock Purdy, to me, is playing like he's been in the league for like 6 years. He's playing like a veteran. He's real poised in there, and a lot of his teammates think that way too. Now, for Jimmy G, I think Jimmy G is a guy where he was kind of already okay with having somewhat of a backup role this season. Like he was probably he got the message that Trey Lance was going to be the guy going into this season. He was like, he didn't show up to like training camp or anything. He reported 2 weeks before the regular season started, and he was totally on board with just being a backup. And I think for the 49ers' sake, I think they could possibly negotiate that situation again for Jimmy G to come back to possibly be a backup and mentor to Brock Purdy. The Trey Lance, I have no idea what's going to go on with that. I think that project is all but done. I don't think Trey Lance is exactly who exactly what they thought he was going to be, especially coming out of South Dakota and only playing for 1 season at South Dakota. At least Brock Purdy has some did he go to a Power 5 conference school?
He went to Iowa State, so yeah, he was Big 12.
So Brock Purdy has more experience in a high caliber conference in college and has more experience than Trey Lance ever did at South Dakota. So I never really understood the hype about Trey Lance, but it looks like this is a Brock Purdy show so far after 2 games. And they clinched their division, right? They clinched their division with that win.
I think so, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, they won the NFC West with that.
They won the NFC West. So Brock Purdy, I think they got to go with him. They got to ride with him through the playoffs. Even if Jimmy G, it's late, maybe they win the wild. Because it won't be the 1 seed. Eagles will be the 1 seed, so they'll play the wild card round anyway.
Well, in all likelihood, I think. The Eagles are sitting there with 1 loss, so they may have secured that top seed. Let's see, the 49ers have 4 losses. There's only 3 games left, right?
I mean, if the Eagles somehow shit the bed and lose the next 3 games and the 49ers win out, then I guess maybe. But it's looking like 49ers will probably play on wild card weekend. I think even if Jimmy G comes back healthy for the playoffs, you got to ride with Brock Purdy. It's like that. It's like that Brady Bledsoe situation. You kind of gotta. They rode with Brady. You got to ride with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and I do think we also should point out, since you brought up the Eagles and you brought up this NFC, the Eagles may not have Jalen Hurts. They may
Yep.
not have Jalen Hurts, at least for next game, and potentially a little bit longer. Now, the Eagles did beat my Chicago Bears. There never should have been any doubt about that. You could pretty much just predict every game there will be some sort of like 50-yard Justin Fields crazy run that gets people hyped, but they lose the game. Like that's pretty much every Chicago Bears game for the past, 8 fucking games. And this one was no different. And, you know, the Bears put 20 points up, but the Eagles put 25. The Bears just couldn't get it done. But Jalen Hurts did go down with a sprained right shoulder, his throwing shoulder. So that has people in Philadelphia a little bit concerned, and I would say rightly so.
Yeah. I don't even know who their backup is. So it's definitely Minshew. Is it Minshew? Is it Gardner Minshew?
Gardner Minchu, yeah.
Gardner Minshew. Hey, I like Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew, he's got that confidence, man. He's got some swagger, and I think a lot of his teammates when he was in Jacksonville and in Philadelphia, he had that huge game for the Eagles last season, right? He threw like 5 touchdown passes in his one start last year for the Eagles. So I think Minshew, he could be a guy to help, you know, carry some of the load for the Eagles to finish off this season strong. But if Minshew does play well with the Eagles, I'm not saying that they're going to go with Minshew in the playoffs, but I'm saying, does that make Jalen Hurts MVP drop his
Yeah, if that plays out that way, if Gardner Minshew comes in and plays really well, say for like 2 games or something, like plays really well, does that affect how people feel about that? And, you know, we saw another Eagles quarterback and Carson Wentz have an MVP caliber season and then go down, you know, on a similar time frame, I think.
Yeah.
Now, his was ACL. He was done, I think, that week 15 or 16, whatever the hell that was.
Yeah, he missed like 2 games.
Yeah, now Jalen Hurts, that's not the case. Jalen Hurts, people expected to be able to get healthy, you know. He might miss a game or two, and they can afford for him to miss a game or two, and they expect him to be, you know, back fine, no real problems for the playoffs. But yeah, it could impact that in people's minds. But I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. I've been fucking doubting him since he came into the league. I've been doubting him this year until they were basically like 8-0, and finally I said, well, I guess we got to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. They've been playing really well, and we'll see how long it goes, but at this point in time, it's tough to bet against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles until they really give you a reason to. They're sitting there 13-1. Yeah. So, I no doubt that they're going to beat my Bears, though.
Well, the Bears started off hot a little bit. I mean, they had the lead for like a quarter and a half. Mm-hmm. Eagles, the Bears defense was playing pretty well. Justin Fields had that huge run. It could have been the best quarterback run of the season, but he stepped out of bounds there on the left side of the field. So he was playing pretty well, but I mean, just the Eagles, you know, the Eagles are well-rounded, well put together. Miles Sanders is a dog. A.J. Brown is a dog. So hopefully for their sake, Jalen Hurts, his time missed is minimal, but Minshew, I think Minshew, if you're going to have any backup in the league, Minshew is a good one.
Yeah, here's this. This is the Justin Fields run. Like, this is like ridiculous.
It was awesome.
First of all, it's 2nd and 27. 2nd and 27. Now, I will say that when we look at the first tackle he escapes, I think one of the problems we have in today's NFL is the quarterbacks are so protected that oftentimes you can't like slam them down. People are like trying to be gentle with them and things like that. And you end up with things like this.
Double-digit sack season. Fields moves in the pocket and gets away.
You know what I mean? You end up with things like guys are trying to tackle. You can't go low. You can't fucking grab them around the neck. So you end up like trying to grab them and somehow get them down.
Yeah.
A lot of things like this, I think, because defenders, you just don't want to. But again, 2nd and 27 ends up scrambling. Watch this shit.
Yep.
Justin Fields takes off, turns a sack into a big gain.
You got to imagine, there's no way he's getting past these guys, right? There's 1, 2, 3 defenders and 1 blocker right here. And I'm trying to pause this so we don't get hit for copyright, just so everybody knows.
First down, Justin Fields, otherworldly.
Insane. Now, he did step out, unfortunately. He stepped out on the sideline right there. He steps out before his last little twist. But yeah, Justin Fields, obviously a freak athlete. It's unfortunate he's not a better passer. But it's unfortunate the Bears can't get any wins. You know, all the people in Chicago celebrating your 3-win season because it's exciting. So, all right. But I prefer Kyle Orton ball where it's not exciting, but they were winning. Bring back Kyle Orton.
And Jay Cutler. When you guys had Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall, you guys were going to NFC Championship games.
We had one good season.
Yeah.
We had one good season with Jay. JRC for 5. Why no talk about the Vikings first half? Their second half performance and biggest comeback in history shouldn't be expected in the playoffs. I mean, you can talk about the first half, but you also can't not talk about the second half. And we can move on to that one. Let's go to these Saturday games. And the Vikings go out to 33-0 lead, and the Vikings come all the way back. Now, I would say that, you shouldn't really act like this. You can do this, and you can't ever have historic comebacks every single week. But when you look at the Vikings, they've come from behind in the fourth quarter in like 9 of their fucking victories this year. I think they haven't lost a one-score game yet, which is insane to think about. Something like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can't expect to come back from 33-0. But at this point, the Vikings are making it a habit for these comebacks. Kirk Cousins, this team believes in Kirk Cousins at the end of the game. They believe in Dalvin Cook. They believe in Justin Jefferson. They believe in these guys, and they believe the defense can make a play when they need to get the ball back. So, although, you shouldn't be predicting that we can just, rest our laurels on this and know we'll come back. When you find yourself in that position, it's comfortable for them because they have a belief that they can do it.
And they've done it so many times. And I believe Justin Jefferson is actually on pace to break the single-season receiving yard record. They're just having that kind of season, and he's having that kind of season. And when you have an offense surrounded by, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, who is a veteran, and then you bring in tight end like T.J. Hawkinson. And I think the Vikings' defense is probably their biggest Achilles heel. And obviously, like when you give up 33 points in the first half unanswered. But then on the plus side after that, you do have a fantastic, legendary comeback to win the game. They're comfortable with Kirk. I mean, all of those previous videos of after their tight wins when they're flying home and Kirk Cousins takes his shirt off, they put on the chain, he puts on the shades, and they're just like partying on the plane. They like him. They like that. They like that guy. And a few years back, maybe they felt a little indifferent because certain times in certain situations where they would wish he would come up clutch, he just absolutely did not. He fumbled the bag essentially. This season, that's not the case. Kirk Cousins has been very consistent and clutch, and when you come away in these clutch situations out on top, winning games, these very close games, yeah, man, they're a scary team. But also you don't know what team you're going to get. You're going to get a team that rallies back, or you might get the Vikings that get blown out by 40 points by the Cowboys.
Yeah. And the Vikings definitely still in that hunt, especially with Jalen Hurts injured. They're still in the hunt for that number 1 seed. They're still in the hunt for that potential bye, which if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you definitely want to be playing at home. Kirk Cousins, with everything that's happened this year, he still is not going to be able to escape that. So, yeah, we'll certainly see. But the next game, the other game that happened was the Ravens-Browns. I got to admit, I didn't watch a ton of this game. I really just saw a couple highlights from this one. That was the one I didn't get too much of an opportunity to watch. But the Ravens now are sitting here. It seems like they've had a worse season than 9-5. Now, maybe that's because they've given up several fourth quarter leads. Obviously, you've got some injured players right now. But yeah, not a great performance for them, but going into Cleveland, going to play a DeSean Watson-led Cleveland Browns team, they still didn't look super put together or anything like that, but did what they had to do to get a win against a beat-up, a banged-up Ravens squad.
Yeah, I didn't watch this game either. I was at a wedding on Saturday, so I didn't catch this one. But, to me, the Browns were probably better off with Jacoby Brissett as well as like chemistry goes, but when you're paying a guy $290 million fully guaranteed, he's going to play. And I'm not sure if the Browns are mathematically eliminated yet. I think a lot of the favor goes towards, the Chargers could still sneak their way into the playoffs. The Bengals can still sneak their way into the playoffs. But I don't know if the Browns are mathematically eliminated, but, regardless, you're going to play DeSean Watson, whether the chemistry on the field is there or not. He's making so much money. He's your guy that you put all of your chips into one basket. So he's going to play. So, but like I said, I didn't watch this game, but I'm not surprised that the Browns did win because, like you said, the Ravens were just really banged up.
Yeah, and they had Huntley back there. He did go, but, a little bit limited from him. It didn't look great. So. When it comes to the Browns, yeah, like DeSean Watson, the ceiling for that team is so much higher with DeSean Watson. He hasn't looked sharp necessarily, back yet, but handing the ball to Nick Chubb 20 plus times should always be a key for the Browns victory. And, they did that. He had almost 100 yards rushing. They were able to, dominate with Nick Chubb back there. So that's good because I think it was the week before coming off of a really bad performance for Nick Chubb. I think he had like 30 something yards rushing, which had to be his low of the season. But the Browns do go ahead and get that victory. They're not mathematically eliminated. I mean, neither are the Colts, but that's because of the division they're in probably. But yeah, they've got a lot of people. I mean, you would have to leapfrog the Patriots, the Jets, the Raiders, teams like that to be able to get in there. And that's not even in yet. Then that's just be the first person out. Because right now the Dolphins and the Chargers are sitting there with those last two spots in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The last Saturday game was freaking awesome. Miami Dolphins versus Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. It snowed the day before. Like, it wasn't on the field, at least to begin the game. But, of course, the stands were crazy. They had to stop play and tell people, hey, Buffalo fans, if you throw any more snowballs, we're going to have to penalize the Buffalo Bills. Like, that's the point that it got to because they were throwing snowballs at people. And yeah, but the fourth quarter of that game was great. The Dolphins had to come back because they were down early. They did exactly that. They ended up 8 at one point, and then Josh Allen comes storming back. He barely sneaks across the line. I think that was that 2-point conversion attempt to tie it up. Game goes into overtime. Snow just starts coming down. The crowd's singing, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, and they do kick a short field goal for that victory.
Hell yeah. And again, I wish I could have watched this game in its entirety, but I was at my buddy's wedding. Wasn't able to catch it, but I saw some of the highlights. Looked like a lot of fun and really great game. Wish I could have watched it.
Yeah, it was freaking awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And we talked about that a little bit Sunday too. But now on to some of these other games that actually happened. We already covered the Eagles Bears, but Falcons Saints. We talked about this game on Sunday when we did our predictions, and I think we all said Saints, and that's certainly the way it went. Saints in a close game, and it was Saints in a very close game. Somehow, both of these teams are still alive because Tom Brady and the Buccaneers also lost, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yep.
But, man, what a bad division, this NFC South division this year. But the Saints do get that victory at home over the Falcons.
I always like it when they bring in Taysom Hill for these trick plays because dude has a cannon. He's just an all-around athlete. No, he's not like your starting quarterback. He's not your pocket passer. He's good for, certain packages. They tried to make him a full-time tight end this season. But his best game has kind of always been moving around a little bit. Is he playing tight end? Is he playing fullback? Is he going to play quarterback? Is he going to throw it? Is he going to run it? And he had like a huge touchdown pass yesterday. So love watching weird shit like that where you bring in different packages, especially Taysom Hill, a guy who the Saints are paying a lot of money, bringing him in and actually making him useful. So that was cool.
Didn't Sean Payton say that Taysom Hill's the next Steve Young or something? I think that was a quote from him before they gave him all that money.
Maybe.
But I mean, Taysom Hill is like Taysom Hill is like what the dream should have been for Tim Tebow. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know if Tebow's as athletic as Taysom Hill is, just like from a straight perspective. I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen the 40s, the verticals, like all this. I haven't seen that stuff, so I don't know. But to me, that's could have been what you did with Tebow and did it effectively if you had the right coach and you had the player that was willing to do something like that. Obviously, Tebow was willing to try to play tight end with the Jets, but that was kind of after a lot of stuff had already gone down. But yeah, I like watching Taysom Hill go out there and throw havoc into everything. Another really good game, which we thought was going to be a good game, and it absolutely was the Lions at the Jets. Now these teams are both 500, which, to be honest, for both these teams, if you told them they'd be 500 before the season, they'd probably be pretty happy with that. But with the New York Jets, with an injured quarterback, they had to bring back the quarterback that they didn't have to start the year when Joe Flacco was the starter before Zach Wilson was healthy. But now Zach Wilson is healthy, and he did play in place of the injured White. But the Jets could not get it done against Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, and the Lions.
Yeah, the Jets have certainly been going through a quarterback carousel this season as far as Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson. And it was such a shame for Mike White, just like the TV network, whenever the Jets would do something really fucking stupid or they like had to punt or something and the Lions would go and score, they just kept panning over to Mike White on the sideline. It's like this guy cannot fucking do anything. Like, he cannot do anything. This isn't his fault. Like, dude got massacred against the Bills last week and did everything he could to try to play in this game. And it's like when the game wasn't going the Jets' way and they just kept showing Mike White, oh, that was so painful. Like why were they doing that? But yeah, no, I mean, good for the Lions. I like Dan Campbell, and I'm not too surprised, and especially with that dual running back core they have with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. You never know who's going to carry the majority of that load for the Lions, so you never know which running back you really have to prepare for, and that's a lot of the Lions' offense as well as their running game. So I really like the Lions, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lions fans have to be really happy with what they're seeing this season, certainly. And now the Steelers and the Panthers, another one of these games is just like, oh, what a fucking shit matchup. And the Steelers-Panthers was not something that I really cared about at all in any way, shape, or form. The Steelers do end up pulling it off, going into Carolina and winning. Mitch Trubisky did get the start again at quarterback, and the Steelers look decent. I think for the first time, I mean, I don't know. I haven't kept super close track of each one of the Steelers games, but it feels like every week, they're having a little bit of trouble scoring. So they do get the victory at Carolina with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, that was a game that was super weird. I didn't even really know who to pick. I think I picked Carolina because they've been on somewhat of a win streak. But the Steelers have been through a ton of these kind of like close games, these not very well played football games, and they have been on the short end of the stick in those games. But yeah, I mean, good for the Steelers, good for Mitch Trubisky. I actually kind of like Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he got a fair shake in Chicago with Matt Nagy, but you might feel a little bit differently about that. But Mitch, I think he could be a guy who's like a game manager who, well, he used to not make many two mistakes, especially in Chicago. I don't think he ever even had a pick six when he played for the Bears. Like some stupid stat, like he's like never thrown a pick six in his career, at least for the Bears. So yeah, I mean, good for the Steelers, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I like Mitch Trubisky. He's not the guy,
Yeah.
We saw his maximum, in that was it the first or second year that Nagy was there with the double doink against the Philadelphia Eagles. What could have been that season if they had moved on, I don't know. That was when everything was really coming together. But to me, Mitch never really made the steps forward. Now, whether that was because so much of the coaching staff or whether it was because, hey, they drafted a guy who had 14 starts under his belt at North Carolina, something like that. Don't know. Definitely don't think he needed to move up in the draft to get him. That's for sure.
He had the monkey on his back of the fact that he was drafted before Patrick Mahomes and he was drafted before DeSean Watson.
Yeah.
So that was the ghost that was always going to haunt him in his career.
I mean, it didn't seem like that in the beginning, but it certainly turned out that way, by the time his contract ended with the Bears. Now a game that I don't know how many people predicted this, maybe a close score, but I don't know if people thought the Jags will put up a 40 spot against the Dallas Cowboys in Jacksonville. The Cowboys drop a game after very closely escaping an embarrassing loss to the Texans, where they had to, last second victory for them there to go down and lose in overtime to the Jags. It's rough for Dallas. I mean, they're 10-4. I mean, so they're still sitting pretty, no doubt about that.
Right.
But now you got a couple concerning back-to-back games for them.
Yeah, I mean, as a Giants fan, I love it. But the thing is even though the Giants, we won yesterday, helping our season, beating the Redskins, we actually secured a wild card spot for the Cowboys yesterday. But they do not look like they can finish games. And on Jacksonville's side, Trevor Lawrence looks extremely clutch, and he's looking extremely comfortable in that Peterson system. And he did what he had to do. Yeah, there was a point yesterday in the fourth quarter where he was trying to do a 3-minute drill to march down the field and win the game, and he had a very not clutch fumble, and it looked like game was over. But the Jacksonville defense stepped it up. They got the ball back. They were able to go down the field, kick a field goal, tie it up, send it to overtime. And I love to see it, man. As a Giants fan, the game ending, the Cowboys losing on a Dak Prescott interception to lose the game, man. That was beautiful, man. I was going crazy.
Yeah, return for a touchdown, a pick six to end it for the Jags. So that was crazy. And a lot of points in this game for sure. And the Jags, hey, they're starting to put things together. You know, they really are starting to put things together, and they have had a couple good games in the past several. And Trevor Lawrence is making strides. Trevor Lawrence had that great drive, like you said, to send this game. So they're fun to watch. Now, a game I didn't expect to be in overtime either was the Chiefs-Texans, but the Texans once again putting up a fight. They're doing their best to lose their grasp on the number one overall pick, and they damn near did it. Damn near came back. Well, they damn near beat the Chiefs. It didn't happen, and the Chiefs do pull it out in overtime. It seems like Patrick Mahomes this Chiefs team is just kind of. They are a team where it feels like sometimes they don't have their foot on the pedal. Like sometimes they're just cruising. And they just kind of wait for that moment to like turn it up. Kind of like, I don't want to say like the Golden State Warriors necessarily when they were on their kind of like, a couple championship run, but it feels that way a little bit where a lot of these guys don't feel like they're maybe going all out every single play, every single fucking possession. But when time is time, they rock and roll. You can't roll like that all the time because you might not be able to turn it on when you need to, but they did what they needed to do and got it done against a terrible Texans team.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me earlier this season when they played the Indianapolis Colts, and they dropped that one to the Colts, and the Colts were having a severe identity crisis at the beginning of the season when Frank Reich was on the chopping block, and the Chiefs dropped one to the Colts, and then you go ahead and look at the week after that, and it's like, oh, well, they played the Buccaneers the week after. So were they looking forward and kind of just assume that they can get by with just not necessarily preparing for the Colts, and then they drop one, and then maybe the same situation here with the Texans. I don't know, but you're right. I don't think the Texans are holding back and waiting for that playoff push, or maybe they're running out of gas because they've been going full speed these past few years, especially that first Mahomes year where they moved on from Alex Smith, and then that was actually the year with the same year with the Colts Rams. I mean with the Rams Saints with that PI in the in the conference. So that AFC championship was Brady, Mahomes, and then Houston, the linebacker Houston, stepped over the line. He was offsides, and then that gave the Patriots a first down, and the Patriots were able to march down the field and win. So that Super Bowl could have easily been Chiefs Saints, but it wound up being Patriots Rams. I'm trying to look and see who the Chiefs play this week, but I can't. Oh, they play the Seahawks. The Chiefs play the Seahawks. So the Seahawks, on paper, to me, the Seahawks are a much better team than the Texans. So were they looking ahead of the Texans, looking forward to the Seahawks? I don't know, but
it's easy to look ahead of the worst team in the league. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Exactly. So, but I agree with you. It looks like the Chiefs do have their they don't have their foot down fully on the pedal.
I think that as soon as they picked up Jerick McKinnon, which maybe had been last year, I don't remember exactly when he joined that team, but Jerick McKinnon's been a guy who, if he can stay healthy, he can be super effective out of the backfield. And he's perfect for that team in terms of what they like to do with those running backs, with the running back that you can go ahead and put in the flex position, in the slot position that you can do anything with. And he's thrived the past couple games, and I think that might be a priority for them moving forward. It should be, just with his athleticism, what he can do on that field with Patrick Mahomes. The Broncos, it seems like the best thing the Broncos could have had was for Russell Wilson to get injured. So now you bring in Brett Rippon, and you put up some points, and you win a game. Granted, it's against a miserable Cardinals team without Kyler Murray starting Colt McCoy, but it is what it is. The Broncos get a win. They get a win. They move out of that second overall pick slot, I think. Now that belongs to the Chicago Bears, if I'm thinking right, if I'm thinking of the records right. But the Broncos do put up some points and score 24 points with Brett Rippon at quarterback.
Yeah, and Colt McCoy didn't even wind up finishing that game yesterday. They had their third stringer come in and finish that game. I mean, the Broncos, ever since they traded Bradley Chubb, man, they gave up. They gave up on this season. I think that was one of the worst things that you can do, especially when you guys think that, like, going into this preseason, there was so much hype on Denver. You know, Jerry Jeudy, you get back Sutton, and then with Russell Wilson, and then your defense, you got Bradley Chubb, who is just a dog, and it's like, man, the expectations falling very short. I mean, maybe I guess this is good. This is good for Nathaniel Hackett winning a game, trying to win a few games towards the end of the season, save his job, because I think that he could be one of the coaches on a Black Monday when this season ends, that he can be one of the guys that's out. You know, one and done, 1 year in Denver, and then done. But, yeah. Interesting matchup yesterday for these two teams, but good for Nathaniel Hackett as far as keeping his job for now.
Yeah, well, let's see how long that lasts. We'll see how long that lasts. Now, the game, listen, a game that was, you know, I would say highly anticipated because, you know, Bill Belichick facing a former coach of his, Patriots playing the Raiders, but really, what happened the initial part of the game doesn't really matter. All that matters to a lot of people is what happened at the end of the game, because it was one of the craziest endings we've ever seen.
Yep.
So take a look at this. We can show you here. I will try to not get copyright hit. I will do my best, but there's no promises. This is from the Vegas Raiders. Never seen anything like it. Well, you can probably tell how this is going to go then. Patriots have the ball. There's 3 seconds left on the clock. And, you know, a lot of times at the end of the games, you see some laterals, see some things like that. Well, this is what we saw.
Mac Hollins out on defense. He's all the way back.
All of a sudden, he breaks into open field.
Yep.
Open field here. And, you know, of course, no time left on the clock. But all of a sudden, you got a couple blockers. You know, you got some space here.
Stevenson. Is anyone going to tackle? Inside the 30, flips it back. Stanford band nowhere in.
That's not a Patriot. That's not a New England Patriot. And this is not going to go well for Mac Jones either.
No.
Uh-oh, it's picked off. Oh no.
And you can see what happens from here. Obviously, goes into the end zone. A walk-off touchdown for the Las Vegas Raiders. What an insane way to end. And reportedly, this was just in the moment they decided to do this. This wasn't called. It wasn't anything like that. But I can see how a little draw up the middle that is meant just to run out the clock, just to end, you know, regulation, go into overtime. I can see how all of a sudden you get free. You're 25 yards down the field. You're thinking, we can make a play. We can do something here. But you can tell that, like, nobody's expecting this ball to come out right here. Like, that's not expected. And, this was a bad decision.
He flips it back.
Yes.
Stanford band nowhere in sight.
Oh man.
Two bad decisions. Like, one, he could have done what his teammate did and just stepped out. But no, he turned around, ran back about 10 fucking yards backwards, and then lateraled it the entire way across the field to Chandler Jones, of all people. Number 16, he I bet he's gotten an earful after yesterday's game for sure. But to be honest, I think that this game, I mean, I don't think the Patriots, I mean, besides the record, I think that the Raiders are a much better team on paper than the Patriots are. The record doesn't show that, but I think the Raiders, this game, but then again, you know, in this situation, the Raiders teammates are like, oh, shit, we've seen this one again. As soon as 34 just broke out and, like, was running up the middle, getting some good yards, it's like, oh, man, we've seen this one all season long. This doesn't go our way. And then it went their way.
Yeah, pretty rough. Now, apparently, you know, Mac Jones was kind of signaling, get down. And that got seen as, hey, I'm here. So that's one of the reasons that he decided to make that throw. And I think Mac was just telling people to get down. But, man, we got to watch what happened to Mac Jones one more time, though.
It's picked off.
Just no chance. No fucking chance. And what, like, in that, what do you suppose? Like, he got caught flat-footed.
Nowhere in sight.
You can see, like, Mac Jones assumes from the beginning that he's about to have to make a tackle. Like, he just knows it's getting picked. Watch how when he comes back into frame, he's setting his feet to try to become a playmaker.
We're in sight. It's picked off.
It just did not work.
No.
It did not work. And I see the Greg here for 5. Pats fan for 30 years. Now I'm 100% on the it was all Brady train. Average Bill is the Chip Kelly of the NFL. Fire Chip Kelly. Fire Average Bill.
Ooh.
It's hard to look at that Patriots team and think like, God, like, who do they have there? And I feel like when you do look at it seems like every first down they get, every chunk of yards they get, is just like there's so much effort that has to be put into it. Whereas for a team like the Raiders, it seems like it's effortless to pick up chunks of yards at times. Now they might make mistakes, they might do things like that. They might have more 3-and-out or whatever. But like to me, the Patriots, it just feels like it's all scheme sometimes, and they're just trying their fucking damnedest to pick up a couple yards. But I don't know. I don't know how Patriots fan base is feeling about Mac Jones right now. I remember last year going up to New England for Tom Brady's return to Foxborough. And oh my gosh, everybody fucking loved Mac Jones. He's the next Tom Brady. Tom, you're going to regret ever fucking leaving here because of Mac Jones. And that's how teams are. But I think that if you step back now and ask Patriots fans how they feel about Mac Jones, it might be a little bit different than they did last year.
Oh, 100%.
So,
100%.
We'll see. Certainly, not a great loss, or not a great showing for the Patriots, but I would say an even worse showing for Tom Brady. It is not good. We talked about this in the pregame. This not a must win for the Buccaneers in terms of playoff implications, but kind of a must at least be competitive, at least look fucking good, at least like take this all the way down to the wire, because holy shit, what is the narrative right now about this team? The narrative is Tom Brady's washed. That this team has no fucking shot, even though they're in the worst conference or the worst division in football right now, the NFC South. They're still somehow in the lead, being 6-8. But this was not a good game for Tom Brady. He had a lot of turnovers. Joe Burrow throws for fucking 4 touchdowns, no problem. And that's after Tampa Bay got off to a 17-0 lead.
Yep.
Like you thought everything they were rolling, like it looked good, but then it was just a collapse.
Yeah. When I saw that, it was like 16-0 or 17-0. I was like, damn. I'm like, is Brady and the Bucs really doing this to the Bengals? Or the Bengals not who we thought they were? But no, the Bengals are absolutely who we thought they were. They're getting hot just at the right time, just like they did last year. Joe Burrow he's Joe Cool, man. He's playing really well, and it's I like Burrow. I really like Burrow. So I'm glad that they were able to pull one out yesterday, because I don't think this Bucs team is very good, and somebody with a losing record is going to win the South. I don't see anybody going above 500, especially at this point, going to win the NFC South. So, but man, just the way that the NFL has gone sometimes, when you get these losers, these stinkers who wind up winning their division with a losing record, like the Saints did a few years ago, or who was it? The Seahawks. The Seahawks had a losing record and they won, and that was Beastquake.
Yeah, and I think the Broncos, I don't know if the Broncos had a losing record. They may have been 8-8 when they made the playoffs, in one of the Tebow years. So, we've seen it from time to time. But, when you look at the Bucs' last couple games, I think they play Arizona, Carolina, and Atlanta. They would have to win out to be over 500 at this point. They would have to win out to go 9-8. So, I think they should win all those games, but I think they should have won a lot of games this year that they just haven't been able to. At least the offense showed a spark early on, and at least, they were able to move the ball a little bit. Tom Brady threw for 300 yards, which it's probably been a couple weeks since we've seen that, at least I would guess. But he did have, 2 interceptions. I think he had 2 fumbles as well. So this fucking team right now is plagued. And are we seeing the question everybody asks each game that it continues to look maybe worse is, are we seeing the last season for Tom Brady? Is this the way he's going to go out? Is he going to want to try it again somewhere else? Is he going to want to go, to fucking San Fran if that's an option? Who knows? Maybe Brock Purdy won't let him. But what's going to happen to this team, and what's going to happen to, the greatest quarterback we've ever seen in Tom Brady? I guess we won't know till after this season's over. But
I'm seeing more and more reports that it's looking like he may find himself back in New England.
That's what people are saying.
Tour.
But
just one last hurrah.
If I were him, I wouldn't go. Like, who do they have? Like
Right.
one of the frustrations was they weren't able to really get some of the weapon. They weren't able to reload some of these weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do they have fucking now? Like what would make him want to go there now?
Exactly. He might as well just stay in Tampa, if that's the case. If that was the only option, if it was going back to New England or stay in Tampa for one more year, you might as well just stay in Tampa.
I mean, I think he could go somewhere like I'm fucking Tennessee. Like if he actually is interested in Tennessee, going to Vrabel and a team that has fucking some weapons and a team that has like a great running game and things like that.
Yeah.
Like fuck, I could certainly see that happening in the right situation, but we'll see. But the Bengals, we talked about how bad the fucking Bucs are. Like the Bengals are really fucking good. Like even though the first 4 games or so, it did look like the Bengals maybe suffering a little bit of that Super Bowl hangover type of feeling. No, they're right back in the swing of things. I think not having Jamar Chase for a couple games helped them out. I think it actually made them have a fuller playbook in a way, and for Zach Taylor to really use all these pieces more effectively. I think Joe Burrow got closer to a lot of these other weapons that he does have, and now that Jamar Chase is back, well, fuck, now he's got his buddy back. So I think it's been really good for them.
Yep.
The Chargers keep winning close games, and that's exactly what they did again against the Titans, coming back to beat the Titans. And man, I think that Justin Herbert continues to will his way through some of these games. Having Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, huge for him. Like you can't underestimate how important both of those guys are to this team. And they somehow won another close game.
Yeah, and he likes that tight end Gerald Everett too. I mean, he's not the greatest, but he likes him. He's a guy that he can go to that, doesn't have all the pressure on him every now and then. But yeah, Herbert continuing, like you said, to stay resilient in these close games. And what I actually thought was odd yesterday, did you see the Tannehill injury?
I didn't actually see it. I just saw kind of the aftermath. But
so he went down early. And he was like crying on the field, like bitching and moaning and stuff like that.
They brought him into the tent, and then they carted him. Then
he had his shoe off. They took his shoe off, and they carted him. Legit, they did like 1 or 2 drives with Malik Willis, and then Tannehill was back on the field, like nothing. Like they just taped up his ankle or whatever. It's like I don't even know what the injury was. Like at first, I thought it was like he might have ruptured his Achilles or something, because just the way he was like. It looked like he was in so much pain on the field. He was bitching and moaning and crying, and then all of a sudden, like two drives later, he's back, just like on that foot. So I wasn't sure what happened with that, but it just kind of tells you their confidence level with Malik Willis, like that they would rather have Tannehill on one foot, on one leg, than have Malik Willis in there.
It should be 0. Like Malik Willis is not. Malik Willis is the definition of a project, and I don't know how many projects have worked out in the NFL. Like, you see people talk about that, drafting the guy, fucking letting him sit. That can work if you have somebody that's not a project, but if you have a project, the only way a project gets better is to fucking let them play. Right. But unfortunately, you can't put somebody like that out there and let them play. Like, he's completely incapable of running the NFL offense. So I don't fucking know what the future holds for Malik Willis. That's for sure. If you get a guy like, say, Josh Allen was not a project, but he was obviously a guy who's rough around the edges, and we saw that in his first couple of years, but because he had that playing time, he was able to develop. Yep. But to me, it's not a realistic thing anymore to draft a quarterback and let them sit for 3 years. Like we saw with somebody like Aaron Rodgers. Those things that's not reality in the NFL anymore. The NFL is win now. These guys coming out of college are, depending on where they're coming from and what system they're coming from, should and can be more capable than we had been used to seeing 2 decades before to become an NFL quarterback. And you have NFL offenses that are more and more often becoming more like college in order to make that transition easier for these guys coming straight out, because people don't want to sit on a player like that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that Malik Willis is going to have too much long-term potential here in the NFL for sure. And then, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but we did end the night off with the Giants beating the Commanders. And how do you feel about this game overall, Beardo?
I mean, the Giants definitely were hurt, man. We are injured. We play on the worst artificial turf in the entire league. The turf at MetLife has plagued the Giants for years and years. Our offensive line is hurting. Our wide receivers, we almost have no wide receivers. I mean, Kenny Golladay, besides the fact that we paid him a whole bunch of money like a few years ago, and he's just a bum, man. He's a bum. He doesn't want to play for the Giants, and the rest of our receivers were hurt, man. Sterling Shepard has torn his ACL like 2 of the past 3 seasons. Saquon Barkley tore his ACL 2 seasons ago. So it's our turf, man. I think we have a good field. I mean, we have a good team. I like our new coaching staff. I like our new whole regime that we got going on. We're a tough team. We were finding ways to win games at the beginning of the season, but the Redskins have always played their division rivals well. They always have. I mean, they're the only team that beat the Eagles this year. So the Redskins have always played the NFC East well. And but last night, here it is.
Yeah, let's watch this final play. So the final play of the game. Well, I don't think it was. I think they had to kneel the ball down after this. But the final play for Washington of this game offensively was 4th and goal. Taylor Heineke's running back and forth, trying to buy a little time. You start to see wide receivers kind of on a scramble drill. And, well, you guys can just watch here.
Chris, he grabs his arm. He plays through the back. It's clearly before the ball gets there. This is defensive pass interference, and it really should be called when.
It's clean, bro. That's clean.
It sure ain't clean. It is. I'm shocked that it wasn't thrown. You know what I mean? Now it's chaotic, and it's probably like a 7-second play. You know, it was a long play. It got extended, so who knows where the ref's eyes are. And you can't see everything. Like everything gets fucking missed. You know, stuff gets missed. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, he almost mounts his back here before the ball's in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, but then to have. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of all over him there. And then he does make a play on the ball at the end. But, yeah. So I'm surprised that wasn't called, but the play that everyone's going to be pointing to because it had such a direct impact, no doubt about it, pretty laughable. But at the same time, these things happen in the NFL. And the Redskins certainly had their chances.
Yep. I mean, it's an any given Sunday kind of league, man. And, you know, just matters if we can win out, stay hot. The Giants, I do think they find their way in the playoffs unless we just completely shit the bed the next few games. We do have to play. I think we play the Vikings next week. We still have to play the Eagles one more time. And there's another team in there somewhere. But, man, we need to win out for sure. We might be able to afford to lose one more game, probably to the Eagles. I imagine that one game we could lose would be. But you know, I've seen the Giants do it before, but we clearly were not the best team in the league, and then you know, we make a run to the Super Bowl and we beat the Patriots. So I've seen it done before, so we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, we'll see. And then the game that, you know, before the season, when you looked at this matchup, people think, wow, what a great Monday night football game. ESPN was probably pretty excited to have this one on the docket. The Los Angeles Rams headed to the Green Bay Packers. However, with everything that's happened this year, with all the injuries for the Rams, the miserable play they had even before the injuries, with how bad the Packers have looked and Aaron Rodgers, not a great Monday night football game, other than just the fact that you get to see Aaron Rodgers again at Lambeau. But what's your take? How do you feel like this game's going to go?
Hey, I'm actually excited to watch this one because it's our second look at Baker with the Rams. So now he's actually gotten a little bit more time to learn this playbook than he did after just like one day last week of learning the playbook and then beating the Raiders. So yeah, no, I'm excited for this game. I think I don't really know what I think. I mean, yeah, the Packers are anemic, like you said. They're a shell of what the Packers were a few years ago. And Rodgers is kind of another player that's in the same position as Brady. Are we watching the last season of Aaron Rodgers? He just signed that contract extension with the Packers, which confused everybody because for the past 2 years, I want to be traded. They drafted Jordan Love. I want to be traded. And then, you know, they get rid of Devontae Adams. He's like, okay, I want to be traded too. And then like a few days after that, he signs his contract extension. So I'm not sure what the hell is going on with Aaron Rodgers' head. I feel like personally, like Tom Brady in the fact that like he only has football. Like Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a family. Like he doesn't talk to like his parents. He doesn't talk to his brother. He doesn't have a wife or anything like that. Like Aaron Rodgers has football. And that's kind of it. So it'd be very weird to see him retire after this season. But could he play with another team? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But I do actually think this matchup tonight is interesting because I want to see what Baker does, man. Does he have a little bit more magic that he had last Thursday tonight on Monday night against the Packers? So I'm gonna be rooting for Baker tonight.
Oh, I mean, I'm certainly going to be rooting for Baker fucking Mayfield ahead of the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. There's not a doubt about that. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I think that the Rams will probably win. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate you guys joining us here for Monday Evening Quarterback. Let me check and make sure we're all good. I think we are. I think we're good over on Streamlabs and over on Rumble. But with that being said, the game's about to start in fucking 15 minutes. So go grab a pizza or whatever you want, or go play video games, whatever it is you're going to do tonight. Hope it's good. Beardo, what do you have going on?
Nothing much, man. Just Fear the Beardo on Twitch and YouTube, playing a whole bunch of games right now, finishing off God of War. And then that series is also made into gameplay walkthrough series over on my YouTube channel. So if you guys like video game walkthroughs, I got a whole bunch of them on my YouTube channel, Fear the Beardo. Check me out there.
Hell yeah. All right, man. We will talk to all you guys next week. Have a good one.